Hello, welcome to Trading the Close. I'm your host, Lawton, joined by Drew Dosek.
What's up, guys?
How are you doing, Drew? What's going on?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm doing all right. We had a lot of action in the markets, not only today, but at the end of the day yesterday.
Yeah.
It kind of bled in today. We know Palantir, SMCI, a couple other things, but how have the markets been today?
Today we did, as you're right, we saw a little hangover effect spilling over into today with prices moving lower. But then they stabilized and looked like they put in a bear flag, but then prices moved right back up. So as we see here on the charts, and just follow me over here, we are having a down day on the markets. The Dow Jones down 0.87%, NASDAQ down 0.61%, S&P 500 down 0.3%. U.S. oil is now up for the fourth day in a row. Gold is getting ever closer to that $3,000 price point. And then Bitcoin had a nice rally up, is now trading around 98,000. So as I mentioned, there was a down day. We have a lot of red that you see over here on this side of the screen, but mainly that down day was almost negated by the bounce and float up that we saw later in the afternoon. And it really kind of concluded right around lunchtime. It was like all the sellers just got out of the way and stocks went back up. But you see here, other big players here, NVIDIA is up just slightly, 0.42%. Microsoft's up. Tesla was down earlier today. Netflix is down. AVGO is also down. So we have some of the big name players, but they're just not down an awful lot. So that brings me into the SPX, and I want to show you what I'm seeing here. So here's the daily chart of the SPX. If you notice, we were talking about how price was coming up in these three areas and trying to make a new high. Well, we did that yesterday, and it was amazing close. And you can see, though, from this trend line that I strung over, that it ran right into resistance. So I've mentioned many times the center area of the parallel is resistance. This trend line provided resistance. And what did we see today? We saw a sell-off, but the sell-off reached inside this inclining wedge, and then as you see, it's bounced right back up. So as long as price action maintains in this area, the SPX in essence is consolidating, gaining momentum for a chance to break higher. And here I've got a conservative target. We've got a couple measured moves in these patterns. The conservative target, if we do break higher, is 6,275, and then the aggressive target is actually the top end of this parallel, nearing 6,500. So both of which are possible, but while we're right here in this area, we're just consolidating, waiting for which way it's going to break. And so that brings me over to SMH. This SMH is, as you've heard me say before, the semis lead the way, okay? And so when the semis are doing well, that often implies that the rest of the market is going to start picking up too. And we see this inclining parallel channel, and the semis have fought for several days trying to get back into this inclining parallel channel, and you see it's done so nicely now. However, even with this move up, this angled trajectory tells me that price action is likely going to stall out, potentially reverse back down to this parallel. This parallel on SMH, the bottom end of it, is roughly at 252. All right, and I know Lawton loves trading the SMH, so he's staring at this and knows this almost like the back of his hand.
Yeah, can I ask you a quick question about this though? So let's say, on SMH here, it breaks that upsloping parallel channel. How do you find a target for that? Would it just be that line down there, those pivots?
Oh, with coming down,
yeah,
like breaking down for support?
It broke through the parallel,
yep.
Flushed through it. Where would you look for a target for that?
Well, first off, and it's always important to determine targets. So that is a great mindset. But right here, when I've seen a break inside this parallel and confirm the way price action has done, we need then price to confirm below. So once we break beneath this, what's likely going to happen is a retrace up to the parallel and then a move lower. And Lawton, you're exactly right. These trend lines that are extended are long-term trend lines that do offer very good support. So I imagine if price does accelerate down, this is right around the 240, 238 area on SMH. We will catch support there, but a couple steps need to happen before we get there. But that's awesome too. Always plan ahead. That's something so important in investing. You got to know when you're going to be wrong, and when you're wrong, you need to know what to do to make yourself right again. All right, so we see gold here on the left-hand side and silver on the right. Gold is moving up at this inclining parallel. As I said, getting so close to this $3,000 target. That's right here on the charts. And so if we continue moving just a little bit more, we will tag this, but notice this angle, much like SMH, this angle is going to exhaust itself. It needs to consolidate or reverse back, and if we want to move higher and sustain higher. Now, silver is starting to break out. Silver was consolidating right here and has now since moved higher. You notice, though, this one pivot is like right here. This one candle almost looks like a topping tail, and it's occurred too close in time to actually be a real topping tail. However, price is going up and testing the top end of that. And should we break higher, I do see silver going up just underneath $35 to this first trend line that I have, and then potentially even moving higher along that inclined trend line that you see. And that brings me into Bitcoin. Bitcoin, this is pretty neat on the charts. I've been talking about this yellow trend line for, it seems like, weeks now. And if you notice, I'm going to remind you, when price has come down and closed beneath this yellow trend line, price has not yet confirmed beneath that trend line. Over the last couple of days, a lot of altcoins were under a lot of pressure, and we did have a poke beneath this. Bitcoin was getting down, trading around 93,000, and then since is now popped back up, now trading at 98,000 and change. What this does, though, is it tells me Bitcoin and the crypto market is still safe, so it means risk on. And so as long as we maintain in this blue parallel and above this yellow trend line, chances point towards a higher price on Bitcoin.
So when you say a higher price, Drew, and I might be putting you on the spot here, do you think it's feasible to see Bitcoin make new all-time highs before breaking this channel down?
Yes, 100%, absolutely. And the reason for that is because Bitcoin takes a while to coil up. It does have very fast moves, but it does take a while for it to coil up and eventually make that move higher. So with this sort of consolidation, although it may be bearish on the appearance, when bear flags fail, we do see very big moves to the upside. So make sure that you pay attention to this, especially this trend, this inclining trend line. It changes in value right now, currently right around 96,000 on Bitcoin. And let's get into a couple charts. This chart today on Baba. Baba had earnings, excelled higher, much higher. First thing in the morning, we were actually able to capture a gain on this in the day trading room this morning. But this is one of the greatest things and simplest things to understand about stock market and technical analysis. All we had to do to find this level, and I'm going to step aside just a little, as you can see this pivot right here. I connected this pivot to this pivot high, and that gave us the stopping point for Baba. I entered the trade right up here, right around $144, and as you see now, price is pulled back. Not only did it pull back, it had a substantial pullback, so you can tell that this area is going to be tough for Baba to get through, but simply enough, it's trend line analysis, connecting those dots, giving you the opportunity to make some money. So it's pretty neat stuff. On SMCI, this one's been on my radar. Yesterday, we traded about 6 times in the live day trading room on SMCI because we just love the volatility of this stock. And when price was going up, it almost seemed like there was no end. And very similar to the Baba chart, I had this trend line on my chart from pivot to pivot, and it extended it all the way out, and that was $64.50. You can notice price did go just a little bit higher there. However, ultimately at the end of the day, price plunged down and it retested the top end of this parallel channel, bouncing up, and then now again today we're retesting that area of the parallel channel. Now, should SMCI break, this declining yellow trend line, which is roughly right about $46, is going to be the area of good support for SMCI. However, if we continue to move higher, we will need to consolidate in this area, but 67.22 is a gap fill, and then also other further resistance higher at $70 will be targets for a move up on SMCI.
And I'm just curious, Drew, so SMCI had earnings, but I'm not sure that was the catalyst for this. Why is SMCI moving up so much?
Yeah, well, you know, they had their earnings announcement here, but it wasn't in essence a properly filed earnings because we're still waiting on that information to come from last year's earnings that should be coming February 25th. So a lot of this lingering positive momentum is hopeful for good earnings reporting and actually accurate earnings reportings from SMCI in the near future. So we'll see come February 25th. Write that on your calendar. We should experience some volatility on SMCI. Always fun to trade. All right, and Palantir. This is the last chart of the day, but you did see see Palantir over the last 2 days have a dramatic fall down, and this was due to our Defense Department reducing the budget and cutting some of the funds going to Palantir's contracts. So price action immediately responded, sending the price lower. We didn't quite get to this major area of support at 93.45. That tells me there's a lot of investors that still have a lot of hope in Palantir, and we're buying that dip. Ultimately, though, I don't think Palantir's done going down. I think this area of 93.45 followed by 86.75 is going to be tagged in the near future. Watch this price action over the coming days if this is just a reflex bounce and then we have selling going down, or else if we're going to continue higher. So it's all about the momentum of what's driving those stocks, and you can see it right there in SMCI and Palantir. Pretty neat stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much, Drew. All right, guys. That's it for us here at Verified Investing. Again, my name is Lawton. This is Drew Dosek.